What's up, everybody? Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome back to the latest Lord of the Rings online game guide here from yours truly. Today we're going to be diving into leveling in Lord of the Rings Online and all of the different ways that you could choose to level your character. Now, when the game first came out, you were kind of limited to just doing quest hubs and the main quest, but these days there are a lot of other options. We're going to be diving into this today because you might have a distinct way of playing the game that fits your playstyle and your unique needs, whether it's based on the time that you have to play, whether you're playing by yourself, with a couple of friends, whether you have a full fellowship, are you joining a kinship and doing it that way. We're going to be diving into all of those things. So without further ado, if this is your first time to one of my videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. And from there, support if you can. Memberships are the easiest way. You can also do super thanks and super chats. We'll talk at the end more about how you can support, but in the meantime, let's just dive in. So I'm at a skirmish camp. Specifically, I'm right outside of Bree here. And this is one of the places you're going to want to get to know. And we're going to dive into the skirmishes a little bit more. But I also want to talk about quest hubs. Because when you start off the game, you're going to choose a starting area. And depending on your race, you might choose. If you're an elf or dwarf, you'll start in Arid Luin. If you are a human or a Hobbit, you'll start in Archit, and then you can choose to back out and go to the Shire if you'd like. And then there's some other unique starting areas based on some of the new races they've added, such as the High Elves and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is, no matter where you start out, if you're talking Arid Luin as an example, when you started out in a region, whether it's Gondomar or Thorin's Gate, so on and so forth, you're going to find down in here that there are quest hubs at all of these regions. Generally, anyway you see one of these horse icons on the map, that's going to be a good starting place to have quests. But all the starting areas are going to have quest hubs for you to work on. Now, part of that is going to be broken down into these different sections of quests. So when you open up your quest log, you're going to see epic quests, you're going to see festival quests, you're going to see class quests, then you're going to see these region quests. In this case, it would say Norcrofts or Western Gondor Belfalis. So my character recently has been, this particular character is often in Rohan, so we've been working on the Norcrofts quests along with the epic quests. Now, generally, as a general rule, the epic quests, which is the primary storyline of the game, this is where you get to go along and help Aragorn and Gandalf and Merry and Pippin and Frodo and Sam, and you're sort of following along the adventures of the Fellowship. These epic quest lines are going to generally move you through regions like the Norcrofts, where you will be able to combine working on the primary quests versus working on what I consider to be side quests, or the random quests that you'll find in the quest hubs that are for the regions. And there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of regions in the game. Because if we just branch out here, let's say you started off in Arid Luin, right, as an elf. You'll start down here in the bottom of the map. You're going to work your way up to Dweilond. You're going to then work your way up to Gondomar, do quests in Gondomar. Then you're going to go to Keladil and do quests there. You'll eventually end up getting to your early teens and be prompted to then move to Breeland. Once you get to Breeland, there are all of these regions to do quests in. It's a lot of stuff in Bree. And then from Bree, you have options of going to like the North Downs, or if you don't want to do the North Downs, you can go down and do the Lone Lands, which is over in here. And then from there, you get into the Trollshaws, right? And then from the Trollshaws, you'll get into Rivendell, and then the Misty Mountains. And from the Misty Mountains, we get into Eregion. From Eregion, we get into Moria. There's all these different regions within Moria. The Dimmeril Dale. Then we're off to doing Lothlorien. Then we get into Mirkwood, and then from Mirkwood, you go on and so forth. There are a ton of regions in the game. You have everything's broken down into the massive regions. So Eriador, Rohan, Gondor, Mordor, and then you get into the post content, which is like, well, there's some content in Rohan. There's Mirkwood and stuff. Anyway, there are a lot of regions of the game, and you're always going to find plenty of content to do in terms of quest hubs and quest lines that are unique to the regions. Now, if you know me, I traditionally don't like fetch quests, And you will find some limited version of fetch quests in this game. But one of the nice things about Lord of the Rings Online is that this game has, in my mind, the best writing of any MMORPG ever that I've ever played in all the years I've been playing MMORPGs. And even when you're doing quests, they don't really ever feel like fetch quests because the storylines for each region are incredibly well done. And as you get deeper into the game, you're going to notice that when the game first launched, especially if you're talking about the early content like, the Shire and the Bree lands, you very much have traditional huge zones with quest hubs spread out throughout. So like, for example, over here, Adso's Camp is a quest hub. Thornley's Worksite is a quest hub. You got a quest hub up here at the Hangster Farm. You got a quest hub down here in the Barrow Downs. You got a quest hub in the Old Forest. There's a quest hub over at Buckland. Down here by Cardolan, there's a quest hub on the border here. But as you get deeper into the game and you get into, say, Gondor, late Rohan and early Gondor, you start to run into these regions where you're moving from an area like Morlad, which has quests that are unique to this area, and then you go into the Blackroot Vale, and there's a quest line basically that'll run you through this entire region. So as opposed to it being individual quest hubs at Morlad and then Tarling's Crown and so on and so forth, it has a huge quest line that just works you through the region. Then you'll get another quest line that works you through this region. Then you'll get another quest line that works you through this region, another quest line that works you through this region, and so on and so forth. So those are the quest hubs, and you can choose to do the regions. That's one way to level up. The other way is to choose to do the epic book quests. Now, if you've followed my channel for any length of time, I used to do a series with my lore master where I actually tracked the epic quest lines all the way from the start of that character from level 1 all the way through to the beginning of Rohan. And even through some of the Rohan content and to Gondor. But specifically, I covered every single book quest in order all the way from Volume 1 through Volume 2 and into Volume 3. The epic book quests are the main quest lines of the game, and these are incredibly well written. They're a ton of fun to do, and they move you through the game interacting with characters from the books. And as a general rule, in the early stages of the game, you can follow just the epic quest line and be able to gain enough experience points to stay on level to keep doing those. But eventually, you're going to start to get to the point where these will become higher level than your character, and you'll need to back up and do other quests or find other activities to do to keep your levels up high enough to be able to do the epic book quest. And that's when we get into the different ways to level up your character. Okay, so we've covered the quest hubs, which are traditional ways to level up in MMORPGs. You're going to find those throughout all the regions. They can be very linear, and you just can run around and find different quest hubs to do content in, apart from the main book quest. But there's also skirmishes. Now, skirmishes are something that were added to the game later on, and these are really unique in the sense that they offer you alternative ways to level up your character as well as alternative ways to gear up your character. And skirmishes unlock at level 20. Now, there are skirmishes camps around the world. There's one here outside of Bree, just on the south side, and every time you see a skirmish camp, you're going to see it represented by a little hub of blue icons in the map like this, which are the various NPCs. If we back out, there's one here in Bree. There's also one just outside of is this Esseldine? I always forget the name of this place. Yeah, Esseldine. There's one outside of Esseldine. There's one outside of, I think, yeah, one right outside of Tinnander. But there was one outside of Rivendell. There's skirmish camps all over the world, and they're all the same. They just happen to be located in different areas. And when you come into a skirmish camp, you're going to notice NPCs around here. There's like a skirmish captain, a skirmish trainer, exchange, heavy armor, so on and so forth. When you do the skirmishes, you earn points, and those points can be used to level up a companion, which you take with you throughout these skirmishes, and also to level up the abilities of that companion as well as to level up the abilities that you have. But you can also take those excess points and buy things like armor, for example, here from the NPC. You can also buy crafting mats with your points. Now, I don't have a lot of points on this guy because I just leveled up my character, my companion character, so there's a lot of stuff that I can't buy right now. But there's also cosmetics and so on and so forth. But skirmishes this is where we get into the fun stuff, because there's a lot of skirmishes in the game. Let me remember the command here to open up skirmish. I think it's Control J. Yeah, it's Control J. So Control J is the instance finder. Now this is going to cover more than just skirmishes, but your skirmish instances are found within the instanced finder. So you're going to scroll all the way down and you're going to notice that there's all these skirmishes. And they're broken down into survival, offensive, and defensive. And the goals of each skirmish just depend on what you want to do. If you want to do a defensive one, you're defending something. If you want to do an offensive one, you're on the offensive against something. There are objectives during each skirmish, and your role in that is to either do something offensive or something defensive and complete the objectives of the skirmish. Skirmishes can be done solo. They can also be done with other players. And when you click on a skirmish, up at the top, you'll be able to choose the size. 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 6 people, or 12 people. You can also choose the tier. And as a general rule, you can choose the level of the skirmish. And there is a range. I think it's like 5 levels if you want to get experience with other players. But if you're just there to get objectives, you can set the level way down and just go blow through it, at a higher level. But the point here is that you can choose to do skirmishes by yourself, with your friend, with 2 friends, with a group of 6 players, or with a raid of 12 people. And the objectives change and get more difficult depending on what you're doing. You get experience points from the skirmishes. You also get the points that I mentioned from the skirmishes, and the type or amount of points you get depend on the tier that you've done, as well as some other, the size of things and everything else. So there's a lot of skirmishes to go through. When you first start off at level 20, you're going to have a very limited selection of skirmishes, but as you level up, you're going to get additional skirmishes. Later on, when you get deeper into the game and start getting into the Moria content, you're going to start getting into skirmishes that are actually a part of the primary epic storyline of the game. So you're actually required to do skirmishes for the main quest line. And you'll notice that some of these, watch the size at the top, some of these have a strict size requirement. Level, 6 people for those, 12 people for those, but then you can get in here to like the Forges, the Forgotten Truths. These are all, related to the quest line, and they have very strict size requirements. There's also for Isengard, Garth Ogwyn. Well, I shouldn't get ahead of myself here. Sorry, guys, getting sidetracked. So there's different skirmishes that you could do. Now, outside of skirmishes, there's also instances. So instances used to be known as dungeons. So as an example, getting into Garth Ogwyn, these are, you'll notice at the top, these are anywhere from 3-man to 6-man instances, and they have a hard cap of, say, level 32. You can't adjust the level on these. You have to run them at level 32. Then the Angmar ones are level 50. Now, these are instances that used to be able to run as dungeons, but these days they're set up as instances. And you have to have those amount of people in your group to run these. And sometimes they have to be run in a very specific order. For example, if we come to, I gotta find it, the Great Barrow as an example. They're all unlocked for me because I've done these before, but if you haven't unlocked them, they would be grayed out, and you would only have one of these that you would be able to do, and you have to run them in order. Notice for Fornos, an example, I haven't ran Wrath of Shadow, but I've ran the other ones, so I would need to run those in an appropriate order to be able to unlock or get a key to unlock the Shadow one. There's also epic battles, which are something that they added with Helm's Deep. And the Helm's Deep epic battles are a whole nother level of gameplay where you go into these instances, and again, you can choose to do it with 1 people, 2 people, or 6 people. And not only do you have your traditional, say, instance or skirmish objectives, you also have additional objectives within the epic battle scenarios, and you can there's other objectives in there, and I probably should do a video just on the epic battles because they're quite complex. But for example, the defense of Minas Tirith, you have to go in and you have to repair walls and repair turrets, and you can build trebuchets, and you have to defend different weak points, and there are a lot of different objectives, and you can earn points within the epic battle system to level up these building scenarios or become better at repairing items. It's really complex. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's another option. So within the instance finder, you have your skirmishes all the way down at the bottom, which can be done by yourself with 2 people groups. Then you get into the instances, which typically have to be done either with 3 people, 6 people, or in some cases 12 people. Then you have your non-scaling instances, which don't scale at all and have a hard level cap on them. And then there are these the epic battles. There's also this really cool series called The Road to Erebor, which I love because you actually go through and they have different objectives. Like some of them can be done with just 3 people, other ones require 6, other ones require 12. But it's basically on your way to the Lonely Mountain and dealing with smog. It's really cool stuff. The instances are very well laid out. And these are basically dungeons that you can run with your friends. Now, there is no matchmaking in Lord of the Rings Online. So you'll notice down here in the bottom right now, the LFF, or Looking for Fellowship, channel is with people are looking for other people to join their group and so on and so forth. So if you don't have friends to play with, or you don't have a kinship, you would look in the Looking for More channel to find people that would run these instances with you. So we've covered quest hubs, we've covered the epic quests, we've covered crafting in another video, but you do earn experience points towards your primary class in while you're doing crafting and refining resources. We've covered the skirmishes, we've covered the instances, we've covered the epic battles. There's another option as well, which is what I wanted to show you here, and that's if you come up here to it says quest actions available. Traditionally, you're going to be prompted for one of these, but we've got these things called the war effort, or the Kara Mubnar needs you, or the war effort needs you, and it's going to say optional report to a mission recruiter. Prince Durin of the Longbeards has declared his intention to retake Gundabad, so you would accept. And then it's going to give you a prompt for somewhere that you need to travel to help with the war effort, right? Or some sort of mission recruiter. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that there's a mission recruiter somewhere here I could be wrong on this. I could swear there was one here in Trestlebridge, which is why I wrote up here real quick, but I think I might be mistaken. No, I am mistaken. There's not one here. But we do get told that we need to report in somewhere. So let's pick one of these places, and so they're listed under missions. And this one is to report to Arrows. Okay, Thorin's Gate, Gondamon, Breetown. Oh, so it gives you a list. I was thinking there was one here in Thessalbridge. But you need to report to one of these places. And it'll tell you where. In Elderslade for this one, or in Erebor here. So you go report in at those places, and you will then get a series of missions to run, which are very similar to skirmishes in that they allow you to go level up in an alternative method with these missions, and you earn faction with these various groups, along with, if you're working on legendary items, you can get your legendary item experience. You are also going to get war marks, motes of enchantment. These are all things that can be used for various perks for your character. So that is essentially it, everybody. By the way, I love the smoke effect that Trestlebridge has over it, because it's it's been burning. So it's just got all this smoke and fire. It's a creepy place, but you can come here and help these people if you want. It's worth it. Hopefully you enjoyed my leveling guide for Lord of the Rings Online. I think I've covered everything you need to know. I'm not touching PvP because I don't do PvP, but those are all the PvE methods that you can choose to level up. I like skirmishes personally. I'll dip into those every once in a while. It also helps because as I mentioned earlier, eventually you need to run skirmishes as part of the primary storyline, so it helps to level up your skirmishes along the way as you're earning your levels towards Moria. My favorite way to level up in this game, though, is always going to be the book quest. I love the epic quests. It's honestly, following this epic storyline, it's one of the coolest things I've ever done in an MMORPG before, because the writing is just so good. And you get to interact with all of these cool characters along the way from the books, as well as the characters that they've invented for the game. It's really well done. So highly urge you to check all these different ways out. And now that we're at the end of the video, this is where I make my supplication to you. I would say if you like this video, obviously like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. I play LOTRO, Star Wars: The Republic, lots of RPGs as well as MMORPGs. I do a lot of tabletop gaming. We do book reviews, show reviews, TV shows, films, and all this other stuff. So check all that stuff out. There's a Discord down below. And please consider joining here on YouTube. You can join as a member from $3 a month. Then there's other tiers you can get into if you want the private videos that we do here as well. There's a Patreon page where my wife and my brother and I have a point-and-click adventure game, a fantasy book series, and a tabletop game. And you can also do super chats on these premieres and live streams, or you can do super thanks on uploaded videos where you can use the pre-programmed amounts that YouTube offers you, but you can also plug in your own and say, I want to give you $50 or $5 or $3 or whatever. Plus, you can do super chats on a super thanks on YouTube Shorts these days as well. So there's lots of ways you can contribute to the channel to keep me on the air full time and show your appreciation for the videos. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you next time. Have fun adventuring in Middle Earth.